simultaneously during this meeting through the Zoom platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listening, and if necessary, to participate in this meeting through Zoom USA. I'm assuming that everybody has that. Providing public notice to this meeting is arising through the town's website, providing a mechanism to the public through the town's telephone number, which is 603-236-4730, or email at townofwv@watervillevalley.org. In extreme emergency, you can call my number, which is 617-775-2129. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have to reschedule it at that time. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call of attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there's anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. I think I said that fairly accurately. Mike Coppell, Tina Coppell is in the next room in order to protect me. Rich?
Rich Rita, Select Board ex officio. I am alone.
Eric?
Garrett Levy. John Racine is with me.
Good. We like John. Wendy?
Who is she?
Is Wendy here?
No.
Well, I don't see Wendy. Okay. Wendy is not here. Amy?
Amy Dell, I am alone.
Jeff?
You're muted.
Hang on.
This is Jeff. I am alone.
Okay. Jim?
Where's Jim?
Jim here?
Nope.
Wow. Anna?
She's not here either.
Wow. Jim? Rebecca?
Rebecca here, and Charles is roaming around, so he may be in and out.
Well, don't let him come in. John? All right, so
Sean. Yeah.
Sean? No, it's,
Yep, Sean Ward is here. I am alone.
okay. So Rebecca and John, since we have three people not here, we can have both of you seated. That makes you very special.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
Dawn.
Jeannie, are you here?
She was.
Jean?
Yeah, there she is.
Yeah. Jean, we never got minutes.
Point of order, Mike. This is Rich.
Yes. Okay.
I don't believe Sean is actually a member.
Yeah, that's
or
right.
either a full or alternate
Sean is
member.
not a member, so he cannot be seated. Right, you are correct.
I will remain
Sorry,
standing.
Sean.
So
All right,
Rebecca,
I will remain standing.
you are still seated. Okay. Did you ever send out minutes? You have your hand over your head.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I did not send them out initially for a variety of reasons, but they did go out, I think yesterday. I didn't have everybody's email address. And so I asked Eric to do it, and she sent them out, I think, yesterday.
Okay, I did. Yeah, I think I got them, but I've been running in 85 directions. I
Yeah.
read them once.
Sorry they were so late.
Yeah, no. I read them once last night. Or the
And you
middle of
had
the night. Did everyone get them?
No,
No.
Okay, can I make,
Postpone the vote.
I think that we will do is we will postpone the vote. And Eric and I will make sure that everyone gets them. And we will discuss them along with the minutes from this meeting at that time.
Eric, did you send them out to everybody?
The first time I sent them out was 3 weeks ago after I got your initial draft, but I don't think everyone got them.
Okay,
Alright,
but then when I sent you the ones
And I didn't do it.
All right,
yesterday,
so that doesn't matter. So Jeannie, what I suggest you do is if you send them to Mark or Sharon or Nate at the town, they will distribute them to everyone. That is usually the easiest way to get things to everyone.
okay, I don't know, I think it might also be put on the webpage. You have to ask Mark.
They will, but you know, that way I know that we get them to read, which is what we do on other committees as well. So, and then once I don't think it's actually put on the website until we approve them.
That's probably,
is the fancy schmancy legalese, if I remember my Robert's rule correctly. Okay, is that all right with everyone?
So
Yes.
Mike, I have a
Yes.
suggestion. Before we continue, I would love for our guest to speak as soon as possible, but before we continue, since we started the meeting, Amy had a great suggestion.
I have her on my list, and I put her before the guest speaker. All right?
Yep.
All right, so Amy was suggesting,
Sorry,
Yes.
Mark, Mike, this is Rich again, but we should appoint, or someone should volunteer to be the secretary for this meeting.
well, that's what we're gonna talk about. That's what we're gonna talk about right now.
I will shut up.
Amy,
We're on
no,
it.
you should never shut up. Everything you say is greatly appreciated. Not by everyone, but by me. So at any rate, Amy is willing to step down as vice chair and become the secretary. Now, I don't have a problem with that. Now, my only issue is that we are a relatively small group. So if I take Rich out, because I don't think, Rich, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe as ex officio, you can either be vice chair or secretary. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'll go along with that.
Okay, so basically, so if I eliminate Rich and I eliminate me, we're down to 5 people. So I am not planning on missing any meetings, at least for the next 6 months. So I don't think I have a problem, at least for that period of time, with Amy serving as both, unless people have a problem with that. Amy?
Admittedly, I don't know all that's involved in a vice chair, so
Well, the vice chair has a very difficult role. If I die, you take over.
don't die.
No dying.
If I'm not here, wait a minute. If I'm not here for some reason, like Tina and I are traveling somewhere or whatever, you are responsible for taking over the meeting. Most of the rest of the time, in our committees, since our committees, especially something that I run, are pretty informal. You don't have a whole lot to do as long as I'm here.
I'm okay with that, except if or when we start going in person, I should be able to make most, but I can't guarantee I'll make all.
I understand, but that would be a problem either way, because
Yeah.
theoretically, if you can't make it, you would be zooming in or calling in, I would assume. Or
Most
maybe you're not
likely,
gonna be able to make it at all. And if you can't make it at all, then you don't function as a secretary or as a vice.
Amy, you should just do it.
Yes.
I mean, come
I
on.
don't see you volunteering, Jeff.
Well,
Fine.
you have to go to
Jeff-
work, you
Jeff-
know, it become
Jeff just
complicated for me.
volunteered to be vice secretary,
Fine.
okay?
Thank you.
All right, so that takes care of that.
Okay.
Eric, you have a guest speaker.
Yes. So it's actually Jeff invited him, correct?
I did.
Okay, so introduce him, please.
Okay, so our illustrious guest, Steve Chalka, like Chalka, even though he doesn't spell it that way, is a wealth of knowledge. So I stopped by the Campton Thornton transfer station at its recommendation and met Steve on a couple occasions and was so impressed. You know, number one, he looks at that transfer station as a way to give money back to the town. You know, not as it being an increase in cost center for the town, you know, providing give back to society in terms of, you know, sustainability. And he's very, very sophisticated in terms of the way that he deals with, you know, the various commodities that go through the transfer station. So it's kind of almost like a little trading desk that he has there with, you know, instead of just giving your paper to one company, well, let's just figure out who, you know, who wants to pay the most for the paper coming out of Campton, Thornton, and surrounding community. So I don't want to take any more of Steve's thunder, but I just thought it would be really helpful just to kind of hear from him a little bit.
Okay,
Wonderful.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that. You know, I've just to give you guys a quick backdrop on my previous work experiences. I own my own, I've been in the automotive industry my whole entire life. I ran my own garage for about 10 or 11 years. And then I came to start working for the town about 3 years ago, a little bit less than 3 years ago. One of the things I very much enjoy about the job is it's the numbers. You know, everything that comes in has to go out. That's why it's called a transfer station. And obviously we're just trying to do that as efficiently and effectively as possible as far as the revenue, making sure that we're current as far as any DES regulations, anything along those lines. But I guess ultimately, I guess I need, if somebody could give me a little bit of backdrop as far as what Waterville Valley's situation is, and obviously any questions that you guys might have for me. From what we've heard around town, it sounds like you guys were single stream recycling, which means you can just throw all your recycling into one dumpster. Generally, there is a fee for that. I know the fees that we got priced out at one point in time during COVID was around $170 a ton to have another company process that material. But like I said, we've caught wind that Waterville Valley is not recycling at all anymore. And I don't know if that's 100% the case, or like I said, I don't know if somebody might be able to give me a little bit of a backdrop as far as how you guys ended up where you're at. And then I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you guys might have also.
So, okay, I'll give you a little bit of information. I thought maybe Jeff can step in and correct me, edit me, add to it, okay? So the town of Waterville Valley does not recycle the usual paper, glass, cardboard, etc. What it does recycle is very minimal. It's appliances, electronics, metal.
right. All the things that are taken care of by contract with the group.
Okay,
Same
so
as he does.
what we would like to do is find a way to recycle at least cardboard and glass, since we will not be able to build an enclosed facility. That is the understanding we have right now from Jim and the rest of the town. Jeff, anything different?
Yeah, I think, you know, we're obviously we're gonna crawl before we walk. And I think one of the intriguing things that I learned from you, Steve, is that, you know, it's not all or nothing, right? You look at things and you say, well, you know, we're going to recycle newspaper, but we're not going to recycle magazines. Or, and what is the benefit of that? Well, you know, you're lowering the amount of waste that is going to the landfill, right? So you're saving the town money that way and generating revenue. So maybe it might be helpful if you could just give a quick overview of kind of how you operate.
Sure.
Yeah, what
That might be a really educational thing.
Yeah, and again, I personally have never been out to Waterville Valley as far as to where their transfer station is. I mean, obviously, having the room or a building that can accommodate different compactors and balers and stuff like that is going to be a huge asset. Number one, obviously, to keep the equipment dry and clean. Number two, to keep the employees potentially working there also dry and out of the weather. So that's a definite must. So some of the things that you guys might be able to start recycling without having a facility like that would be, let's say, glass, for example. Glass does not have to be dry. It doesn't have to be clean for the most part. Right now, we're signed on with a host town of Littleton, and that's through the Pemmy-Baker Solid Waste District. From what I understand, Waterville Valley is part of that also. But just the glass in itself, as long as it's glass, the issue is also that you have to have a manned facility. If you give the public the opportunity to put things where they choose, it's not always the correct place to put it. But like I said, all of our glass right now goes into a 30-yard open top dumpster. Our particular setup here, we have these little blue, what they call tipping hoppers. The residents come in, they put their glass in there, and then we have a skid steer that has a set of forks on it. And we go over, and when that little dumpster's full, we tip it into the bigger dumpster. And obviously that's another thing too. I don't know what you guys have for accessibility of equipment. I mean, we run this facility with a skid steer and a backhoe. And literally, if we don't have one or the other, we're in tough shape, The glass, we actually end up crushing down with the backhoe so that we can get more glass into the dumpster. And generally those dumpsters go out, they're usually around 12 tons of glass. And that's probably go out, I would say maybe once a month. Obviously it depends on what's going on with the pandemic. There's a lot of people drinking and ordering stuff online. So our glass has increased substantially, but no matter what, that's, easily 50, 60 tons of material that's not getting landfilled just by doing glass in itself. Plastic, the plastic, you would need to bale your plastic. That's how it's marketed, as baled. That's how they transport it, as baled. And like I said, the plastic could be stored outside, but in order to, the baler itself should be inside of a building. So those are two things that you guys might be able to get up and going that, even if you had a small area that you could put a baler, you could store your plastic and your glass. That's something that could be outside. Cardboard's a different story. Cardboard has got to be clean and dry. It can't be oily. They don't want any like waxy coated cardboard, stuff like that. So like I said, and that might even be something if you had the equipment, and I don't have any idea of the volume that you're dealing with, but you could potentially store that in like one of those sea containers.
Right.
I think you can buy those for a couple $1,000s. I don't think they're that expensive.
Shipping.
And then once you get X amount of them, then you can actually start trying to market your product. Cardboard right now is through the roof because of the online shopping. We're getting like $120 a ton. Plastic is double what I've gotten in the last couple of years, and it's 2 cents a pound, which doesn't sound like a lot, but the big thing in this industry isn't always necessarily the amount of revenue that you can generate. It's cost avoidance. And so that is ultimately what you're doing, is you're trying to save money just by the cost avoidance. If you just threw everything in a dumpster and it all got landfilled, I mean, you can do that, but like I said, there's no cost avoidance, and that's primarily what the recycling is all about. I'm trying to bring in as much revenue as we can. That's just the after effect of it, But like I said, I mean, number one, you need equipment if you were going to go over to multi-stream recycling is how our facility works. And I'm sure you guys have heard also, especially like the last 4 or 5 years, there's a lot of communities that stopped recycling, and primarily the ones that did were signed up for single stream. And it was just such a cost. There's always the debate on what it does for the environment. The challenges of the landfills that are here in the North Country are filling way too quick. The one up in Bethlehem was slated to be open until 2025. And if they didn't get an extension last year, it was going to close 5 years early. So there's that impact there. If the proposed landfill doesn't go in through at Dalton, we may be hauling our trash somewhere upstate New York. I could be looking at $100,000 budget increase just on transportation fees. We operate roughly on a $500,000 budget. So that's a huge increase, so, but like I said, I mean, every single thing that's out there in the world has a home at a transfer station. You just got to know where it's supposed to go to get the most amount of revenue, and obviously be in compliance with, regulations that are out there as well. Our scrap metal, we had a gentleman that was coming to get our scrap metal, and he had a fairly specialized truck and trailer to take it. And when I started actually looking at some of the numbers, we were getting around $25 to $30 a ton for our mixed scrap metal. I ended up calling Gilpatrick's Metal Recycling, which is down in Bristol. They're paying us $120 a ton, unlimited pickup. So it doesn't matter how many times he comes, and no transportation fees. So, we've probably brought in $8,000 to $9,000 just in this first quarter, just in our loose metal. So that's something else that doesn't have to be in undercover, but again, we're able to put a lot more into those cans because we have the backhoe that we can really smush that stuff down and try to get as many tons in there as possible.
So a question for you, Steve, in terms of when you gather those materials, in terms of, let's say, glass, does someone pick up that glass, or does someone pick up that cardboard?
So we in not by contract or anything like that per se, but we primarily deal with Casella. They've always treated us the best as far as transportation. There's no hidden fees like fuel surcharges. And like I said, they come and get it. We just call them up. We let them know that the can's full. The billing goes through NRRA. I'm sure you guys have heard of those guys also. They're a really good resource. I think primarily they were originally got together as a nonprofit organization. I don't necessarily buy that that's the case anymore, but they wanted to be like a one-stop shop. Anything that you needed that was involved in the recycling industry, call them. I've since outsourced some other vendors that I've been able to save a lot more money. But if I get in a pinch, they're always a phone call away as far as getting something hauled out of here, transportation or whatever it may be. But yeah, like I said, all of our trucking, we don't do any of that stuff. We don't have any trucks. We don't have any trailers. We don't have any dumpsters. And I'm sure there are other communities that do have their own means of transportation and or their dumpsters, but some of that stuff can be a burden as well. If one of their dumpsters is in tough shape, it's not our problem to fix it. They fix it. So, and again, you don't need an employee that has a Class B license, and the logistics of having a truck, keeping that going down the road, et cetera, et cetera. So.
Great.
That was very interesting. Thank
May
you
I
very
ask
much.
a question?
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah, Steve, that was a very, very interesting. Do you know off the top of your head about how much tonnage a year you're talking about in terms of just solid waste?
As far as our solid waste, what they call MSW, municipal solid waste,
Right.
We did around 1950, so 1,950 tons. This facility, we're really trying to get things turned around down here. There are other communities that are the same as ours as far as population goes that generate half of what we do. And we're trying to go down that road to get our numbers, into the realm that they're supposed to be. Littleton's a perfect example. Littleton is pay as you throw. I'm sure if any of you guys have done any homework, you're familiar with what that is.
Yeah, I am.
In Littleton, they have roughly 6,000 residents in their community, and those guys do about 800-900 tons a year. Plymouth is doing around 800 tons a year.
Wow.
And like I said, we're doing double that. So, some of my frustrations with working for a municipality is things don't happen overnight. You got to take baby steps. And as far as our numbers go from 2019 compared to 2020, we dropped about 170 tons of MSW and we increased about 75 tons of recyclables. You know, so like I said, we just got to stay diligent and keep the course. And I'd like for us to try to get in those statistical numbers that these other communities are as well. You know,
And what was your tonnage on the recyclables?
give me one second.
Just off the top of your head.
I've had so many numbers bounce around my head lately, Rich, I couldn't even, hang on a second. Give me just 1 second and I'm gonna let you know exactly. Zach, you there?
He's probably trying to figure out how much paper he has and see if we want to buy it from him.
All right.
Did he say he had a backhoe or a front end loader?
I heard backhoe and a forklift.
Skid steer. I don't know if that's the same thing.
It can be.
All right, we have to move forward.
Yeah, we have a skid steer and a backhoe. And we use both pieces of equipment for a number of different things. Obviously, moving things around the facility as far as having forks on the skid steer. That's what we use to load trailers. If you did end up getting a baler and putting any of that stuff together, let's say started to recycle plastic, you would need a loading dock. And again, I don't know how the facility is laid out, but these trucks have to be able to back up to a loading dock. Excuse me one second.
Okay. No, that's okay. Why don't we just move forward on to the next thing on the agenda? We have a lot of things to cover.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Eric, you're on there for recycle.
Oh, okay. Oh, we should really say goodbye to him, don't you
I
think?
did.
Well, he's on the other line, so let's let him come back
Okay.
and then we're.
All right, so I suppose I wanted to share some, does anyone want to make comments about Steve's talk? I
There
mean, I
was
have,
nothing, well, there was nothing there that we didn't already know, that I didn't already know.
okay, do you know that after speaking with Jim, he said that we do have room for a baler within the side part of the garage. That's number one. We're talking about a cardboard baler. And number two, Jeff came up with an idea. Steve called it a shipping container. We call it, what did we call it? Or no, shipping container. He called it something else. But there is room to the side of the garage for one of those shipping containers. Does everyone know what that looks like? They're not very pretty, but we have a solution for that too. I would have to go and to my photos to share some things with you. I don't know if I have a screen share.
Well, let me see if I know how to do that. I don't know if I'm the host. Hang on. Participants.
I did it, Mike.
No, okay,
You should be able to.
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay.
One of the things that I learned from Steve's talk is I didn't realize how expensive single stream was, right? When he was quoting $120 a ton
These
for
more
single
than that.
stream, right?
No, 170 a ton.
170 a ton.
$170 a
How
ton.
do I do it?
So I didn't know that. And, maybe that reiterates, walk before, crawl before you walk. Maybe there's some items that we could begin to recycle before we decide that we want to go in that direction.
So wait, so the other issue with single stream recycling is it's not just the cost, it is the contamination level. And the contamination level is what moved us away from single stream recycling. Because from about a 5 to contamination level to a less than 1% contamination level, which it was no longer feasible for us to use the same truck to collect trash and then collect single stream recycling. That was the reason we originally went away
Right.
from single stream recycling. So it is more than just the cost.
Right,
Yeah.
so we understand from what Steve said and from the information we gathered from the NRRA that we cannot use the same truck, obviously for contamination reasons. This is not what we're proposing. We're proposing to do separate cardboard and separate glass. For the limited facility that we have, the glass would be picked up by Casella. We haven't talked to them exactly yet. We wanted to hear what Steve had to say.
Okay.
And you need more pieces of equipment. There's no question about that. But right now, we can't think about an enclosed facility. We agree with that. But this is not to stop us from pursuing and fact-finding on cardboard recycling and glass recycling. So if we can agree to do deeper research on that, how that would work for our town, I think we should focus on those two things. If maybe Amy knows better, but I think when people talk about the core four, they're talking about glass and cardboard, number one. And if you talk to the town center businesses, Wendy can tell you how much cardboard she is throwing away. It's criminal. So we would like
I
to,
don't think you need the committee's approval for you to continue to do research.
okay,
What
so,
point does this move to the operations and cost subcommittee?
Yes.
I mean, but I don't think you're ready to give it to us. You said you just need more research.
No, I think we're absolutely ready to give it to you. We found a great resource with Steve, who can give you an idea of what the revenue stream would look like. If we figure out what equipment we have or don't have, that would be another piece, right? And then, and if in the last meeting, you didn't want us to run any of those numbers. So I think that's kind of stuff that's got to sit in the operations committee.
Okay.
You know, there's employees too. I mean, I don't know how Waterville's set up as far as employees, but
There are no employees currently available.
so that's gonna be,
what does that mean?
Wait a minute. Basically, what we said at the outset and what Jim has told us is my understanding of the Campton Thornton Ellsworth transfer station is that it is a manned transfer station with limited hours. Is that correct?
that is correct.
And it is important that it be a manned transfer station in order to make sure that what you receive is appropriate.
That's correct.
So I think that we also have to take that into consideration, that is a
So,
fully manned operation.
so operationally,
Mhm.
could someone who's getting paid $10 an hour stand there at that facility and make sure that if we're just recycling glass, or do we say we're only recycling glass on Saturdays and have somebody there on Saturdays? It's a numbers thing. It's an operations thing, right? How much revenue would you generate and what will it cost?
So you're passing this off to the operations committee?
Well, I'd be happy to run the numbers, but in the last meeting, everything was kind of pulled away and said, let's let the operations committee do it. If you want us to do it, I would love to do it, but
Well,
And you're
would you
gonna
like,
make a
would
decision
you like to have a special committee set up just to do this calculation?
no, I'd like to come up with some numbers, and then you're the accountant. You know, you could make sure that the spreadsheet looks proper.
That's fine with me.
Yeah. So why don't we come up with some stuff and give it to you, and then you can do the forensics on it.
That's fine. I'm pretty much around.
Let me,
Can I,
add one more thing before you speak, Mark? So if you have the same number of men working at our transfer station and you start cardboard and glass recycling, I would guess, I don't know the numbers, that there would be fewer trips to the landfill. So the hours they spend 6 hours, no, 3 hours each time they go to the landfill, those hours would be at our transfer station instead of on the road, spending more time, all those man hours to the landfill, they would be at the transfer station sorting and working the baler and whatever, other machinery. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Mark, you have a statement?
No, I just have a question for Steve. Is there a place or is there a document that you can send to us that lays out your hours of operation, your number of personnel, what they do? Do you have like some kind of operations summary that you could send to us so that we would know how you were structured?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I can get some rough numbers to you guys. All that information's out somewhere in different document forms. None of it's actually compressed into one.
Okay, is all of that information in your town report? So if
Yes,
we-
that town report does reflect as far as the employees that work for the transfer station. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I think you're gonna be hard pressed to find someone for $10 an hour. I think
Yeah,
especially
so-
in today's society, I think you're looking more in the $14, $15 an hour. Just, basic logistics as far as how our facility runs. We have 2 guys that work in our recycle center, and that's all they do is take things through the window all day long and make bales. There's 2 employees up in the office, dealing with fee schedule items, things that cost money, logistics, reports, et cetera, et cetera. And we have 1 part-time employee that comes and works on Saturday, our 1 weekend day that's open because we're just so slammed as far as the people coming through. But the way that our facility operates, and it works pretty well, is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the 3 weekdays that we're open, 2 hours before we're open to the public, all the employees are here and we're running around processing, cleaning the place up. People come in, they throw furniture. It's like a war zone down here. And so we have 2 hours every morning to get the facility up and cleaned up, do a couple of bales if we need to, process air conditioners, refrigerators, whatever it may be. That's what works for our facility. One of the first things that they teach you when you go to get certified through DES to work at a transfer station, every facility is different and they all operate differently. So that's just what works for this particular facility. So I'm not saying it necessarily would work for Waterville, but I mean, I can definitely shoot you some numbers as far as our hours of operation from the public, the hours that the employees actually, and I can give you a rough idea as far as where they're at on a financial level as well.
Okay, and you have a controlled access facility?
That's correct. Yes,
Okay.
we have mandatory stickers to use the facility. We weren't for years, and I think some of that trash, the volume that we dropped, is because no one ever pursued the stickers. And there's people from all around. So even still to this day, we've been pushing stickers for about 8 or 9 months now. And on Wednesdays, the Lincoln and Woodstock transfer stations closed, and people come through, and I truly feel like they just don't understand how the budgeting on a municipal level works. I think that they think that there's state allocated funding for trash removal. They don't get that it's shared amongst the taxpayers. So when we explain that to them, they get it and they go on their merry way. But
And
like
I just want to verify the numbers that you said that last year your tonnage was down 180 tons.
about 170 something tons. Yeah.
And that you recycled a total of 75 tons, is that?
It was 77 tons more than 2019.
Okay, so how much do you recycle?
So we recycled last year 373 tons
Okay,
of recycled materials.
all right, good.
And we had 1,900 tons of garbage
You're looking at 2,400 roughly.
altogether.
Dealing with 2,400 tons.
Right.
Yeah,
But
3 times ours.
373 tons is revenue. So and again, it's that cost avoidance that we're not paying $67 a ton to throw this stuff in a landfill, where it's cost avoidance and we're generating revenue. So it's twofold,
Okay, good. That's great information. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
I'll find a town report and we'll get those numbers.
Yeah, we have one here at the transfer station or at the Thornton Town Hall.
Yeah.
We've been more than
Thank
happy.
you, Steve.
You guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys, you have any other questions? Don't
Thank
be
you.
afraid to reach out. You guys have my email. And, if you guys do get set up as far as a baler and stuff, there are grants that are out there that are available. You can always contact DES or NRRA. They can discuss to you as far as some of the grants are available for recycling equipment. They don't really do any grants as far as trash goes, but as far as recycling, they try to encourage that as much as possible. And once, if you guys do get set up with that kind of, operation, even if it's a couple of things that you're recycling, don't be afraid to reach out. I can give you guys some resources as far as the buyers that are out there and, where the markets are at and stuff like that. So we're more than willing to help you out.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So encouraging.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Bye now.
Bye. Mark, or can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, Mark, what did the town council say when you contacted him about interpretation of our contract with the trash removal people we have now?
As long as we're talking to Casella or one of the member communities of Pemmy Baker's Solid Waste District, we're okay.
So we can request numbers and whether they would be able to do Waterville Valley's recycling and how it would be done.
If
As long as we're dealing with Casella. Yes.
If it's Casella and if it's a community that is in the Pemmy Baker Solid Waste District.
Right.
So you couldn't go to Lincoln and talk to them because they're
No.
not in the district. You'd have to stay with.
That's correct.
I have one question for the recycle committee. What kind of timeline are you guys looking at for this program? You talked about
Yeah,
baler and glass and what was it? Glass and cardboard, I believe.
Yeah. I don't think we have a timeline. It's, obviously the town has a lot of things going on, but we just kind of look at it as, hey, let's do what is the least resistant, right? That has the least capital outlay, that's the easiest to implement. And if we can kind of move a little bit further, then we can do additional assessments and we can say, hey, Mountain, like I figured out how much glass, one of the major distributors distributes into the valley. I have those numbers, right? So we could kind of look at the numbers and say, can we go to the golf club and say, would you deliver our glass to the transfer station? Or Mountain, are you willing to play ball? And we could just kind of figure out what the most basic level of operation would be. And that way, and we could test it out, right? Instead of mandating or doing anything else, just see if we can get some of this to work.
Okay, thank you.
Is there privilege of the floor, Mike?
The privilege of the floor is down below,
Did you want to speak?
but you can talk. Go ahead. If it's on top, if it's on point.
Yes, no?
Hi, John Racine. Thank you for the privilege of the floor. My question probably is going to be directed to Mark. And that is, we now have in place a metal recycling area, correct?
Yes.
And we also have a in-place recycling area for refrigerators, air conditionings, washing machines, those type of things. So my question to you is, first of all, one of them is there any cost to that, to the average person dropping that stuff off? Okay. So now my next question is, I don't think a lot of people know that place even exists. And is there some way you could send out education or something to people so they can know that it's even there, cost, times that they're open, that type of thing?
Hey, John, I have a deliverable that I've let it down because my wife was going to build a kind of something that could be put on the dumpsters that the town could look at and approve, that would say what they do recycle. And I don't have a lot of leverage over Jenny, but I'm trying.
Okay, is she working on that right now?
Among everything else that's going on, but yeah, it's being discussed every other day. I think it'll be done in the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
That's
So
good.
you-
There is a list. I mean, there is a list of
There's a link
recyclables and
It's
costs.
on the website. We will
On the web,
continue to improve the education and let people know that those things are there, but people bring stuff up all the time. All of the property managers know that it's there and they use it all the time. We don't have a lot of refrigerators hanging out in the national forest. So
Thank God.
I would say that they're either already bringing it here or they are taking it somewhere and disposing of it because we don't have roadside metal issues. You know, people are aware of it, but we will highlight it, put it in the next water sewer bill, whatever.
Thank you.
I think that's what you've done in the past. I can remember getting the list
Yeah,
of
I can remember it too.
the site and the cost if you drop it off.
There is a cost.
Yeah.
There's a posted cost.
Yes.
And I
Is-
just want to go back to something that Eric said, and I just want to clarify the Baylor location. Where did Jim tell you that it could go?
Okay, so if you walk into the huge garage where the offices are,
Yeah,
and then go to the left, there's a bay to that huge garage. The bay is where the truck parks.
yeah,
And what's parked there right now? Something is parked alongside the left wall. But when I spoke to Jim, he said, yes, we could fit a baler right there. And then the shipping container that we talked about would be where the baled cardboard would go. On the outside of the garage, the ugly shipping container can be beautified. I can't show you my photos right now because I don't know how to screen share, but maybe at the next meeting, I'll learn how to do that and show
Come over here sometime and I'll teach you.
this group how it can look. We can beautify that ugly container.
Okay.
Okay,
All right. Are we ready to move forward, Eric?
I
good.
guess, wait,
Mark's not-
Mark is not finished.
no, that's all. I just.
All right,
you
let me
know, because
move.
that is contrary to what Jim and I have talked about before. As
Okay,
far
well,
as space.
Well-
I'll meet you there and show you.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll take care of it.
All right, let me go down a couple of things. Assuming it is approved by the committee, the school PTA and resort have all agreed to participate along with several of the condo associations in establishing the Trex Challenge for the town of Waterville. Basically, we'll be posting exactly what's involved.
Great.
So that we will not be taking it to supermarkets. We'll have special locations around the town where it'll be deposited. And for every 500 pounds we do, we will be getting a Trex bench
Bench.
that will be used. So the first thing we have to do is, and if that is contrary to what was in the wigwag, but we're gonna move forward with it. The school is excited, the resort is excited, the resort has agreed to help us, the resort has agreed to let us put things down in the village square and so on, so that's taken care of. The kids are very excited. So I guess I have to take a vote whether or not the committee is willing to have the town do this.
I have a question.
Yes,
When is that supposed to start? Because I have like 100 pounds here that I need to recycle.
now.
Perfect.
The school is started.
Mike, what do you mean have quote unquote have the town do it?
No, the town is doing nothing.
No, I just, your question.
Wait,
I'm
wait,
trying to understand your
wait,
question.
we are not relying on the town equipment and I spoke to you about this. We're not relying on town equipment or town personnel. They are not involved at all. Theoretically, the solid waste committee is involved. All right, now, we mentioned this when I was in the office with you guys and said, as long as there is no town equipment, no town personnel,
Right.
All right, then I don't have to go before Mark. I'm gonna go before, I talk to Mark all the time anyway, and I don't have to go before the select board for this.
No, if it's volunteer and on private property.
Right,
yep,
it's
fine.
volunteer, it's on private property. We are participating as co-sponsors along with the school / PTA and the resort. So what the goal here is to really make this a town-wide, I'm saying town, I'm not talking about town, the town, I'm talking about in the generic, in the royal
it.
town. A town-wide project that everyone can get behind, A, to get some of that plastic not going up to Bethlehem, and B, hopefully get us some benches and help beautify the town. That's the goal of the Trex Challenge.
Do you need a motion for that, or what do you need?
I guess I need a motion in a second.
All right, so motion for the Municipal Solid Waste Committee to co-sponsor, the volunteer townwide Trex Challenge.
Okay,
Second.
okay. Mike Copel, I'm in favor. Rich? No, I've got my list in order.
Sorry. My
Rich,
co-sponsor is meant,
Helping to market,
right. But
nothing logistic related.
no, nothing.
Allow
logistically related.
signage to happen on town property and,
We are not planning on putting anything on town property.
okay,
All right, we are planning on doing it on school property and resort property.
Okay.
Because
then I'm not, sorry to be the bureaucrat here, but I'm good at that. Why do we need a motion? It sounds like it's completely
Okay.
if you don't think we need
voluntary.
if
Good
people
point.
don't think we need a motion, that's fine. We're just
Can
gonna go,
I-
we're just gonna move forward.
yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
Can I ask
All
a
right,
Sounds
question?
great.
all right, that's, yeah,
Mike,
Jeannie?
can we take action like that without, as a committee under the select board? Can we take action like that without having the select board?
I have
Approve.
asked that question to town manager and a member of the select board. And what they said is, since we are not using any town equipment or town personnel, that we can.
Okay, Mike, are you getting an official Trex container or 2 or 3?
There is no such thing as an official Trex container other than the
Okay.
small, we've already taken care of this here.
Right.
I have a committee that took care of it,
Awesome.
all right? Actually,
Mike-
I have a committee representing all of the groups, other than the condo associations that want to be involved, and most of them are going to go through the PTA.
Right.
So Mike, thank you for doing that. And I think the best part is it's happening and it's going to happen in a way that's easy so people don't have to drive
Exactly.
it anywhere.
The goal here is
Boom.
it's a town-wide thing. It's easy, and it starts planting the seed
Yes.
of recycling. That's
Yes.
the goal. That's the first part of it. So that takes care of the Trex check.
Mike, but could I just recommend
No.
that? Sorry, but it would be helpful if this volunteer group, whatever it may be called, would, from time to time, it could be you, but from time to time would provide the Municipal Solid Waste Committee and thereby the Select Board and Town Manager a report, an update, what's going on.
The goal is to do this every 2 or 3 months, to have an update, to update all of the groups that are involved as to how we're doing.
Good.
All right, that's the goal.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes care of pretty much the Trex thing. TerraCycle, I had an outstanding meeting yesterday with Subaru in Tilton. They are willing to work with us as far as the TerraCycle Challenge, which is entirely different things. So I'm concerned, dirtier things, actually.
Yeah.
Silly things like, I don't drink coffee, but K-cup containers,
Yeah.
Mhm.
plastic lids to coffee,
Wow.
snack wrappers. I don't want to call it crap, but stuff like that.
Yeah.
They are willing to work with us on that. I am talking to Subaru of New England to try and have them give us something for doing this. I'm working on that. I don't know how successful I will be. It has happened in other parts of the country, so that I'm trying to hold them hostage for that. But we'll see what happens, and probably won't start TerraCycle for another month until I have more time on my hands to help, and I have some people that are helping me with that as well. Unfortunately, my friend Wendy never showed up. But there is a group of people that are working on composting,
Mhm.
and we are doing it on a multi-pronged thing. We are working on composting on a residential basis for your home. We're working on composting for commercials. And we're talking to a couple of the, I don't want to call them food people, but food people, as to what I've spent. I guess one of the worst ones is the coyote. And I've been talking to Sean about what they do. And worse is the wrong word, but creators of the most organic waste, all right, which is what we're talking about, prep waste and things along that line, and how much there is and what we would have to do in order to work in that area. We're talking about that. I'm also talking, it turns out Casella has two very large, as in huge, 3 football field size composting areas that people can use. And you're shaking your head, you know about this, yes?
I used to
No.
work for them.
Okay, so you know about this. Unfortunately, if you work with them, you can go and blow them up. They have one in Vermont and one in Maine, and we're in the middle.
Oh,
So basically, I'm talking to them. It is not proceeding very well, but at least we are talking about whether or not, if we can find a place to accumulate it here, maybe they would come and get it. We're still talking. So that takes care of the 3 things that the out of the box, along with various other groups in town, are working on. Privilege of the floor.
Yeah, could I, Mike, I just want to say, I'm getting a little confused because those out of the box seem to be recycling to me. And
I'm very happy to let go of them. I have more than enough things to do.
as chair, perhaps you should.
I have other things to do besides this committee.
No, I just, maybe what the larger point I'm trying to make is, I don't know. We haven't had any reports from the other committees, and maybe that should be a regular thing on the agenda. Each committee providing a report of their activities, but I'm not sure we have, as a committee, determined what each of the committees specifically are working on. So I wasn't sure you were coming from out of the box.
It is coming from, these are things that were coming up in the out of the box committee. And I was approached by other organizations regarding Trex, so that I and a couple other people on, and at least one other person on the committee is involved in that, as well as composting.
Well, Mike, I think the recycling committee gets credit for Trex.
Okay, then that's fine. Well, last time I looked, all they did was put up signs and say, take it to the supermarket. And as a matter of fact, that's what they said that's what they continue to say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll
Just
share,
teasing you.
we will share credit, because I'm not a big take credit person. I don't believe in taking credit. That's not what a committee does, in my view, but that's okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Privilege of the floor, because I only did this for an hour and I've run out of hours.
I have something. I don't know if it's related or not. On one of the Waterville Facebook posts this morning, somebody was complaining about the trash near the skateboard park, and they recommended a townwide cleanup event. Is that something we would get involved with, advertise, sponsor, promote?
We already had two.
Didn't we already have two?
We had two
And we
already.
have another one,
There is.
and we have another one coming up,
Yeah.
up on the mountain on,
Right.
what day is that? The 15th, 14th,
We,
whatever that
the
Saturday is?
town has had one and has another one coming up. Mark, do
Yeah.
you recall the date? I believe it's is it is it next week? What is it?
The
It's
Isn't that the-
15th is the mountain.
15th is the mountain, I thought, but I
Yeah.
know the town has another one.
I believe it's a week from Friday.
No, I think it's this Friday.
Is it the 7th?
I think it's the 7th. It's town cleanup day. It'll be the second one held by the town, and then the mountain has their own mountain cleanup
Right.
day
Right.
on the.
Mark, can I make a suggestion since I don't know if everyone knows? Can we like somehow put this on the Facebook page and
Yeah.
and the town website? I don't know if it's on the town website. And we'll do word of mouth. I know I was busy for the last one, but Tina was out there working, so I'll be happy to go out. I don't know what I'm doing this weekend.
Yeah.
But I think you are right. There are issues with several things like that I know are out there.
I have one item. First of all, the way that worked out last year was absolutely fantastic. I mean, for doing that, I was given some bulbs that I planted in my yard and they're coming up. They look fantastic.
Yep.
So that was really cool. The other thing is that I noticed in what we were emailed in terms of, the Waterville list of rules, but I think they could do a better job around those dumpsters around town square, covering them up or making them look a little nicer. I just kind of feel like I'm walking in from the parking lot and I'm seeing the skating rink and I'm seeing these dumpsters right there in the middle of nowhere. Just, we don't want to fine anybody, but that's kind of a little bit of an eyesore.
Mhm.
Tell them to talk to Brooke.
Well, that's not Brooks' area. That's something that we can talk to Jim about. That's a good point. I'll talk to Jim, or Mark, you can talk to Jim to maybe put I don't know if we can put a fence up in front of it or not. I don't know if that's possible, if that's doable. But
Just
that's
might
something.
look a little more attractive for people coming in and using town square.
Okay. That leads me, I'm gonna skip down because I do try and stay on time just because all of our time is important. One of the things that I had distributed, and I spoke to Mark about this the other day. One of the things I distributed to you, and I'm sure you all spent at 3 o'clock in the morning, like I do, read all of the ordinances that kind of, even though they are issued by the select board, tangentially at least fall within our purview. And one of the ordinances deals with the dumpsters that are at various locations. And Waterville is a friendly place. We are nice people, except for Mark. I'm sorry, Mark. Mark is a sweetheart. We are nice people, all right? We are friendly people. We are a friendly town.
Usually.
If you read the ordinances, what it says is that the places that these dumpsters are, people have a responsibility to have certain things, like clear the snow off, like not have put things in front of it, not park in front of it. Thank you, Terry. And so on. And without mentioning any names, because it's not important,
Friday.
there are habitual offenders to the issue. And I asked Mark and I've asked Jim both the same question. And have we ever, there is a list of fines in the ordinance, amazingly enough, that says if you don't do what you're supposed to do, we can fine you. And I asked, did we ever issue a fine? And the answer is no, we never have, because we're friendly. Now, my wife, who is the most brilliant person that I know, if you've seen her hat, the hat says bitch on it. No, but as she says, if you're going to have rules, the rules have to have consequences. Well, I know what you're saying, and you're not wrong. But by the same token, if people don't have consequences, if they do it wrong and we say naughty, naughty, please clean it up, and they do it, and then they do the same thing 2 weeks later, and the same two things 2 weeks later, and the same things 2 weeks later, how many times do you let that go?
Right.
And I'm not looking for answers today. I think that obviously the easiest thing is just let it go, continue to let it go. If we're going to continue to let it go and not do any fines, then we ought to recommend that the fines be taken out of the ordinance since they're not enforced and there's no intention to enforce them. If we want to enforce them, then we ought to figure out a methodology for warning people a certain number of times.
Mhm.
That's what I'm recommending, and I'm just asking people
Yeah.
to think about it. All right.
Yeah.
And we'll think about it, and it is something we'll talk about next time. What do we want to recommend? We are an arm of the select board.
Mhm.
What do we want to recommend to them? And I think that falls in our purview to do, Rich.
Good point.
It's
Richard?
enforcement, Mike, and so I'd be very wary about going down this path, frankly. But it's certainly worth something. It's certainly worth discussing.
Wait a minute. The ultimate decision whether to enforce does not rest with our committee. The ultimate decision whether to change the ordinance does not rest with our committee. All I'm saying is, I think that review of the ordinances and a recommendation to the committee kind of does fall in this committee. The answer may be it's fine the way it is, and if
Mike?
I'm not saying that I necessarily have a problem with that. Yes.
Mike, I have a question. Have they been written a letter? Like, is there a party, whether it's the town writes a letter, versus verbally, or like, I think that's kind of a good place to start. Just say, hey, we're putting you on notice with a letter. Please do that.
I don't have, wait a minute. I think that's, I'm not making a recommendation. I think that that's a fine suggestion. And the select board is very, very busy. They have a tremendous amount on their plate. Mark is exceptional and he just very, very busy. He has a lot on his plate, as is Jim, as is everyone else. I'm just saying, let's take a look at it. And if we want to let it go, that's fine.
If you're not gonna enforce them, take the rules out of the thing.
You heard my wife.
Well, but I
Can I
think
speak on-
you do need to notify them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Can I speak to this topic as a
course.
as a guy
As a
that
violator?
accidentally, as a one-time violator, I can say that the most effective way to handle the situation is just not empty the person's dumpster. We had a little bit of snow over the winter. I don't know what happened here logistically. Nobody went out and cleared it. Dumpster didn't get emptied the next day. Let's just say my pickup truck made a few trips down to the transfer station that week. And I guarantee you that dumpster gets shoveled out every time it snows from now on. I don't think we should launch this group's exposure to the community by starting to dole out fines. I think we should start with the carrot on this. I think Mike, the truck driver, very good communicator. I talk to him a lot when I run into him when he's out there. I think you start by talking to the people that are violating. I think we could probably agree as a group here and maybe get the town to agree not to pick up somebody's dumpster if they've blocked it or didn't shovel it out or whatever. And then, maybe in a year or so after trying some carrot and some not financially punitive, but some, don't pick up the dumpster punitive actions, maybe we can start talking about fines again then.
I don't understand, Sean. I just looked at it and I think that's a great idea. I just think we have to think about it. It exists. as my wife always tells me, if a punitive action exists and is never used, everyone ignores it.
Mhm.
And we just have to figure out, how do we want to do it to make things as easy to accomplish as possible. These guys, especially in the winter, when they're also plowing and doing all kinds of other things, they're busy. And how do we do it to make their life as easy as possible, and while at the same time not coming down too hard?
So Mike, I think one of the things you should do is maybe ask Mark what his process is of reminding them of that fact. And I don't think it
I
should
will
come
have all
from,
that.
it shouldn't come from us because, you know, we're volunteers, right? I mean, it should come from the town, but the question is, what is, you know, how are they documenting that? It's kind of the same way like the dumpsters being out. According to that document, it says they're not supposed to be out in the open, and they are. But I don't want to fine anybody. I just want to give them a reminder and say, what can we do?
We don't have authority to fine anybody. But all I'm saying is, we should at least review the ordinances. And if we think they're fine, I think they're extremely well written. I've read them several times. I think they're well written. I think they're well thought out. I'm not saying to change anything. I just think we should read them.
Again, Mike, I think you're treading into enforcement. I don't think that this particular committee should go down that route. It
Okay,
should be about solid waste disposal and not how the town enforces what ordinances it has. But we can vote on it, and people can, on the committee, can decide.
well, okay. I mean, let people read it and see what they, and then if they don't think it's important for us to do, and that's fine too. I just read them and said, go ahead, Mark.
I think the most helpful thing is if this committee feels that the Board of Selectmen are ultimately responsible for the enforcement of the ordinances. If this committee feels that the selectmen should be doing something differently, then this committee should communicate that to the selectmen. And if you review the ordinances and you say, when was the last time we fined somebody, which is never, how do you enforce it? I can talk you through what we do. And then if you don't think that that's appropriate, or you feel that the selectmen should be doing something else, then prepare a letter from this committee or an email, or go to a select meeting.
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, it has not been historically the approach of the town to use monetary fines for anything in town, for any violation.
I fully
Other
understand.
than parking. So if you
Well,
feel,
there's some speed tickets,
well, and speeding, but that's
different.
if you feel that it should be being done differently because you feel that there's a reason that it should be enforced, then tell the selectmen that. Because what has been communicated to the selectmen and to me in the past is, don't fine us. We'll take care of it eventually. It gets taken care of and we make do. We're kind, even me. So I think that's a much better approach. If you feel that it's something that you guys want to get into, make your feelings known to the selectmen, okay? Because there are reasons that there are not doors on some dumpster enclosures, and there have been times when we have sent letters to people and told them that they must do X, Y, and Z at their enclosures, whether it's clean it up or rebuild them or replace doors, whatever the case may be. We've done that in writing. We have not had to go to the level of fining someone, but we communicate regularly with folks, and we drive away from dumpsters all the time. all winter long and all summer long because there are cars in front of them. You know, we've left the dumpsters at the conference center for 3 weeks,
That's gonna stink.
okay? But then it becomes a health issue,
Right.
right?
Or a smell issue.
Well, that's part of the health issue.
Yeah.
And it also becomes a health issue for our crew because we can only leave them for so long,
Sure.
right? But we generally try to work with folks.
No, I understand. I'm just throwing it out. I think people should decide. That's all I'm saying.
We can provide copies of the ordinances if you want them.
I sent them out.
Yeah, we already have them.
I sent it out just so that I felt people should at least read them. All right, I've exceeded my hour. Does anyone else have something they want to go through before we adjourn? And for next time, oh, we have to pick a next date. I'm assuming that the first Tuesday of the month at 4 o'clock will continue to be the appropriate time?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes? Can I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, wait a minute.
What?
Question. Maybe this is a question. Mark, are all the committees going to continue with remote or are they going to start going in-house? Do you know?
The changes do not take effect until the 7th, and there's been no decision other than the select board is meeting in person now, and the planning board is still meeting via Zoom. There is legislation that has a hearing today.
Yeah,
The hearing took place at, I believe, 1 or 2 o'clock
yeah, it did.
afternoon. I haven't heard how that went. So I don't know what the recommendation of the committee is to continue a change in state law to continue remote meetings. But the governor's orders expire on Friday.
Friday. That's my understanding. As well, and I've read the drafts.
It's read.
Yeah, I've read them. So maybe we'll wait and see what happens with that legislation. I haven't followed that up. I have read the drafts that have come out from the governor's office, and they are only unless something has happened that I don't know about. Mark, they're only drafts as far as I know?
No, they're final. He finalized them last Thursday, but they don't go into effect until Friday.
Okay. And okay, that's fine. Then the ones I've read are in place and.
Basically, all the requirements become recommendations.
Right. So it is basically do what you think is appropriate
And
and
it's all
careful
left up.
and smart.
It's all
Yep,
left
smart and
up.
appropriate.
So the first Tuesday is June 1st, which is the day after Memorial Day.
Okay.
Are we still good with that?
Does anybody have a problem with that day? So I
I'll be
think we should
tired.
just, what?
I'll be tired.
I'm always tired.
Yeah.
I think my blood beer content level will be subsided sufficiently by then.
Won't you be working then?
Hey, I own my own place. I can drink and work. I own a bar too, so
Yeah, we're all coming over to your place.
I'll be here.
Is that where the next meeting is?
Yeah.
We can have meetings here. That'd be fine with me.
All right, so for the time being, at least, let's plan for the first Tuesday in June. I guess nobody has a problem with that.
Where?
So we'll worry about where. Let's see what that legislation comes down. Do people have a problem meeting somewhere, or should we could just continue with Zoom?
Well, it's a little far for me to drive.
Oh, that's
Yeah, but
right.
you can always zoom in. Mark, I have a question. As I read those things from the governor, that executive order goes away on Friday. Mark?
Yes, That is correct.
So theoretically, I don't think we're authorized to have the general meeting be electronic anymore, as I read it. Is that true?
That's correct.
Good.
As of Friday,
As of Friday.
Meet at the transfer station.
Okay. We're all meeting at Sean's. He's bringing the beer.
I think we could schedule it for 1 June and then see what happens now in the intervening weeks. Of holidays.
Let's schedule it for 1 June and let's see what happens this week, if anything changes.
Yeah.
And we'll send out an email, like May 20th or something like that, as to whether we're going to do it by Zoom or in person, wherever.
Or hybrid, both.
Well,
Well,
we're
wait,
going to have,
Zoom-
we're
Zoom
going to
is
have,
always
I think
available.
legislation. I mean,
What?
no, I think this is it's specifically to public meetings. There will have to be something very specific about that. Correct?
No,
Mark?
I agree, Rich.
We could
But
figure that
let's-
out. Let's just put the date down and then
Exactly.
Right.
just let us know.
But my understanding is that even if we are meeting physically, we can still have Zoom available to it.
Yes.
Is my understanding. Based on what I read. Okay,
that's correct.
Yes.
Good plan.
can
Sounds
we
good.
now have a motion to adjourn? Nobody wants to adjourn?
Does anybody have anything else to report?
Does anybody? Go ahead and say something.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Jeff. I second.
I have to take. Yes,
Take that roll call vote.
take that roll call vote. Mike
Says the
Copel,
bureaucrat.
aye.
Show the hands.
Rich,
Really?
Rich, aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Wendy's not here. Amy,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Rebecca.
Bye.
That's it. Thank you
All right,
very
thank
much,
you.
guys.
Thank you,
Bye.
Good
everyone.
meeting.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Good meeting, everybody.
Bye.
See you around.